The NFL draft has ended, leaving many HBCU fans out there wondering why their favorite HBCU athlete, football player was not drafted in this year's NFL draft. Yes, there was one athlete that was drafted from Jackson State, and many of the other HBCU athletes along the way got undrafted free agent deals. Now, this sparked a wild debate where people are beginning to say that there's not much talent in these HBCU programs. Well, remember one thing, they play in the FCS, which is Division I. So I'm trying to understand, how did we get to this point where people are saying that some of these athletes, or a lot of these athletes that play for HBCU programs, were not draft worthy? Not to mention, you got a few sport analysts that's calling out the former Jackson State head coach on his statement concerning how disappointed he was with the NFL when it came to this year's NFL draft. Let's talk about it right after this. It's your favorite coach back at it again. 10 toes down, about to tell you how it all went down. This is Tomorrow Leader Sports Network with your host, Coach Walker. If you're new to the channel, please like, share, subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you can get all upcoming videos. For all my leaders out there, welcome back. Y'all know the drill. Y'all know the routine. If you haven't done so already, please like, comment, and share these videos, and tap in a friend or two and tell them to come on in. It's nothing but positive vibes. We're just having a good time talking about HBCU sports. And don't forget, you can follow us on all social media platforms. The links are listed down below in the description. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump on in this thing, because these narratives is getting out of control when it comes to HBCU athletes, or these football players that's playing for a lot of these HBCU programs. They're not talented enough to get drafted into the NFL. Now, I feel that's a load of garbage that, is being spread out there, because I'm trying to understand, why are we trying to kick the HBCU can down the road to make it look like it's something that is really not? I mean, people forget, sometimes there is talent in every FBS and FCS school that doesn't get drafted. I mean, let's be real here. But these narratives, as I stated before, or roundabout statements that, folks like to make, it's like they make a statement where they're saying one particular way, but don't hit that bad boy straight down the middle so you can get an understanding of what's going on. I mean, for people to think that you got to go to a Power 5 just to get drafted if you want to reach the NFL, I mean, wait a minute. How did this, where is this coming from? I mean, let's look at the top 150 athletes that was drafted into the NFL this past year, and you will see by conference who had the most athletes drafted right off the rip. The first two that you're going to see is going to be none other than the SEC and the Big Ten. Because we already know there was a lot of athletes that was in those programs this past season that was balling out, making sure that they had their names in everybody's mouth for them to see that they were able to do the things that, would be expected, and that opportunity of playing up on that NFL level. Even though COVID is gone, it's here with us, but it's gone, we're still dealing with that. And you say, well, Coach, what do you mean? 2020, 2021, right? Athletes that was trying to get scholarships to college, they couldn't get them scholarships unless they was one of them guys. They 4-star, 5-star recruit. They was getting into school. 3 stars, 2 stars. They was more so going to schools that they really didn't want to go to. They went there to make sure they were able to continue their collegiate careers playing football, and then found an opportunity to get to those programs that they were trying to get to because they felt like they had the talent to do it. There's still some of those athletes in the transfer portal that have not been picked up. Jackson State head coach Deion Sanders, he didn't hesitate to make it clear right off the rip, letting everybody know he's ashamed of the NFL and the 31 teams that passed up on picking up more HBCU athletes. Now, in his defense on this one, I can understand why he says that, because remember, he coached in the SWAC. He coached against a lot of those athletes that some of those athletes that were in the draft. He coached against them. He coached the athletes that was on his team that were in the draft. And, he keeps saying he got an eye for a pro. He knows what a pro look like. We hear this all the time. But Shannon Sharpe ain't waste no time letting it be known that it might be a possibility that your eye might be a little tricky there, Coach Prime. Shannon Sharpe, he ain't waste no time. Disagreed with the former head coach of Jackson State, and he made it clear that if the players had talent, they would have been drafted. So you mean to tell me that these HBCU athletes have no talent? He didn't even, the crazy thing is, guys, he wasted no time with doubling down on that thing, saying, hey, listen, it's being saying that, in some way, shape or fashion, he's trying to make it out as if Deion Sanders was trying to make this out to be a racial thing when he say, well, folks forget that the NFL is predominantly black. Well, duh. You think we don't see that if we sitting here watching football every daggone weekend? Heck yeah, we see this. But it's not about the race. It's about the eyes being put on FCS HBCU programs that have athletes over there that can frickin' ball. That's what it's about. But I understand. I'm starting to, you starting to move me a little bit towards where you're coming from, Shannon Sharpe. But I'm gonna get to that later on down the line, because I gotta touch on this other scenario here, because when you stated that, owners is going to go out there and they're going to recruit the athletes that they're looking to have come in there and help them win. Well, Shannon Sharpe, I got a question for you. How many of these teams are actually spending money on the athletes to come in there and help them win? Because from what I'm seeing, there's a lot of teams that might spend money on a player or two that, they're going to keep the fan base excited, because all they're really doing is they just want to come in there and entertain. They'd rather have a fat bank account than be called champ. I'm just saying. Guys, if your favorite team is out there and it's one of those teams that have not put together a daggone roster for you to see your team get out there and have an opportunity to win a Super Bowl, please leave a comment below in the chat, because I know daggone well it's happening. And guess what? I'm going to name one for you right now. It's not my team, but they're in my hometown, and that's them daggone Detroit Lions. They ain't trying to put nothing together up there. All they want to do is entertain everybody. They know the folks going to come in there. They're going to buy the tickets. They're going to pay for them hot dogs and popcorn and everything like that. You're going to sit down and accept what they're doing. Here we are once again. Now, I'm going to step back on Deion Sanders' side and say, you know what, I agree. Because you're kind of saying, hey, we got to get out of the habit of just accepting the norm. I'm with you on that, Coach Prime. I respectfully understand that. But you know what? One thing Shannon Sharpe forgot, and I'm going to say this again. Shannon Sharpe, those HBCU athletes that you're talking about, they are playing Division I football. Because they go to an HBCU university or college, many of the athletes that were looking to get drafted this year that Deion Sanders is talking about more so is on that Division I level. However, you can't tell me that they don't have no athletes you can't tell me that those HBCU institutions don't have no athletes. Isaiah Land, Xavier Smith, Isaiah Bolden, who got drafted by the Patriots, Aubrey Miller. You got Shaq Davis over there that got undrafted free agent deal with the Saints. You got the young man that's the lineman from UAPB that's over there with the Saints. There's a lot of different athletes that's going to be around the country having the opportunity to play. Heck, you got Dejon Nugget Warren over there at with the Chicago Bears. What are we talking about here? Because if these young men didn't have the talent or have some talent to come in there and showcase exactly what they can do on the field, why would you even want to waste the time giving them a undrafted free agent deal? Make that make sense. Like, y'all act like FCS teams don't have no dogs. Y'all act like they ain't playing no ball over there. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of programs that want to have the opportunity to move up as far as with, the level of play with their programs or whatever have you. But you got to go through all of these you got to go through so much red tape just to get there. People don't want them to become a part of that. They'd rather try to keep it to themselves. They come here and they start winning, then they might just very well get our athletes. Then we got to get back out here and go recruit again. Look, a lot of these Power 5 schools, they done got fat and lazy and not really getting out here and doing nothing with these athletes. And by the way, while I'm thinking about this, since we're talking about all of these athletes that, these HBCU athletes that didn't get drafted because they didn't have any talent, what do you have to say about the athletes that played in the Power 5s or these big name schools, these big name programs, which they got undrafted free agent deals as well? I'm just saying, Georgia has some monsters on their team. So did Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State. A lot of those institutions had a lot of athletes on their teams in which they did not get drafted. Heck, you even had Coloardo players that got undrafted free agent deals. So what you trying to say? They didn't have no athletes over there either? For the life of me, I don't understand how someone that got drafted in the 7th round from an HBCU continues to keep looking down his nose at HBCU athletes who never touched down on that campus, on Jackson State campus, to see those athletes play for himself. But you was the first one to run to Coloardo when Good Prime got on over there to Coloardo. You're the first one to get there. I'm just saying. I couldn't let this go when I saw a tweet by Jason Whitlock. When I say Jason Whitlock didn't waste no time dropping his nuke bomb out the sky, I'm sitting there like, yeah, dog. I said, yeah, this puts the icing on the cake as far as when I say double talk. You see somebody like Jason Whitlock drop a gem like this one, you got to really think like, man, where's he going with this? Let me read to you the tweet that he had to say, because he stated, as a player, Deion chose Florida State. As a coach, he chose Coloardo. Deion wants 31 teams to make a choice and or sacrifice he was unwilling to make. Now, all I can say is, Deion Sanders, what you do to Jason Whitlock? He pretty pissed off with you on that one, my friend. But I'm gonna close out with this. When I say double talk, I had to take a look at some things from December to now, and I'm looking at the athletes that you took from Jackson State. You took 13 athletes from Jackson State. Two of them include both of your sons from Jackson State, and you moved on to Coloardo, which is your given right to do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But those athletes, I believe, that you took with them are 13 more athletes that would have come through them HBCU, that would have come through an HBCU program, that would have gotten drafted in higher rounds. But because you left for whatever reason it was that you left to go to left Jackson State to go to Coloardo, here you are saying that you are ashamed of those 31 teams that didn't take a look at any of those HBCU athletes to possibly draft them. You had the opportunity to make sure that that playing field was level, like you said, when you came to Jackson State. Now we're seeing, okay, ain't nobody really hearing that no more because you're not there. Whether people want to believe it or not, whether they want to like it or not, and I understand you got a lot of fans that love and adore you, and that's great. But there's a lot of athletes out here that I want them to understand the message, and I'm going to give them the message, and it goes like this. Regardless of what people may have to say, one thing that I advise all of you athletes out there to do is this. Make sure you're getting trained up. Make sure you're getting the coaching that you need, because a lot of these athletes are going into programs where they're not being coached up. They're being called up because they're talented. And talent don't always take you where you want to go. Talent will run out at some point in time if you're not sharpening the skills that you have. All my athletes out there, don't be afraid to go to HBCU thinking that you cannot get drafted, because you can. If you jump out the film, you jump off that screen on that, when it comes to them looking at your film and them looking at you out there on that field, trust me when I tell you, they're going to want you to become a part of their organization if you are of some benefit. If you full of that bull jive, they ain't going to want to deal with you. So make sure your draft grades are high. There's a lot of folks out here that are doing draft grades on these athletes, and they're looking at a lot of different things. They're looking at your weaknesses as well as your strengths as well as your weaknesses. So make sure you get those things, your weaknesses, get those things taken care of. And your strengths, make them as dominant as they possibly can be. So if you have a slip, guess what? It's a minor slip, because they're not going to look at it like, okay, we can kind of work on that. They're not looking at a fully polished person, but they want to make sure the canvas that they have is something that they can work with. So all I'm saying to you guys is this. Don't listen to the crazy narratives. You got a lot of folks out here that want you to go away from HBCUs and not want to participate and get that culture and understand exactly, how things really are. We understand that. And again, HBCU schools that are in FCS conferences, trust and believe they can get out there and compete. The only difference is FBS schools got more scholarships than FCS schools, and we still wonder why. Because when we had people that had the opportunity to make a change, They did an about face and went the other direction. Like I said, ain't no need for us to fuss and argue. Just understand the fact that it's time for us to take the reins and move this thing forward. It's plenty of us out here to do it. Everybody, it's just uplift these athletes for them to see that they too can achieve their dreams going to FCS HBCU school. Guys, coach is up out of here. But until next time, be the one and lead.